Okay, folks. Yeah, so I don't normally post more than once a week, although I am trying to change that. But when I got the breaking news, which a lot of you guys probably heard by now, uh, which I guess, came across maybe late 3, 4 hours ago, I said I wanted to come on and just say a little something. Okay. And if you haven't guessed by now, that news is about the reinstatement of Kareem Hunt. All right. And yes, I'm talking about that Kareem Hunt, the one that used to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. Um, it's well, a lot of people expected him to get back in the league, but I don't think people knew that it would be this soon. Okay. Now, let me make something clear. Um, a lot of times when guys are reinstated or brought back, to the league, they get put on what they call the commissioner's exempt list. Okay, and all that is a list that the commissioner has of players who have been declared by him, of course, as uh, unable to play until the commissioner himself decides that they met some type of standard, maybe they've gone through some type of program to help rehabilitate them uh, on the situation that they were involved in. And once he decides, okay, they've learned a little something, they may be a better person now, then he'll bring them back. So, but anyway, that's where we are. So, yeah, let's get into this. Just want to talk a little bit about it. Uh, and Kareem Hunt, let me talk about the player first. Uh, Kareem, I mean, as you guys remember, I mean, he was a stud. He was a stud for Kansas City. As a matter of fact, I picked Kansas City to go all the way to the Super Bowl, and even without him, it still almost happened. As a matter of fact, I mean, you can thank D Ford for that. And he's not a Patriot. He plays for Kansas City. If you recall, late in the game, I think it was like a minute left in the game. Kansas City was up by 4, and D Ford lined up all sides. And just so happened on that very play that he lined up all sides, they intercepted Tom Brady. And that was game. That would have been the game, if it were not for that penalty. But of course, they flagged D Ford for neutral zone infraction, and the Patriots went down and scored. So, and that was pretty much it. But Kareem Hunt, a great, great player. I think he played in 11 games, I think it was. And he had like almost 800 yards. So 800 yards, or I think almost 800 yards, or maybe it was 800 yards. But anyway, having that through 11 games, he still had another 5 games left. If he had still been playing, he definitely would have went over the 1,000-yard mark yet again, because the previous season he went, I think he had 1,300 yards rushing or something like that. Okay. But anyway, I just wanted to, and you know what? I'm not saying he would have won it, but I think he could have challenged his teammate, Patrick Mahomes, for MVP, which would have been interesting. But I mean, Patrick was too good. He was great. If I had a vote, I definitely would have voted for Patrick, even if Kareem Hunt was still playing, But Kareem Hunt, great player, great player. Good to see him back in the league, to be honest. But anyway, let me just talk briefly. I just want to throw 3 questions out there to you guys. Something's in my eye. I don't know what's happening right now. I don't know if it's an eyelash or what. But I had 3 questions surrounding this that I just kind of wanted to throw out there. And, if you guys have, any thoughts on it, you can definitely comment below. let's see. The first question is, does he fit or will he fit with the Cleveland Browns? Okay, that's the first question I want to address. The second question is Kareem Hunt worth the PR hit that the Cleveland Browns are going to take from this? Okay, that's the second question. The third question is, what is the NFL doing about this situation? You know, there's a lot. We've seen situations like this before, so the NFL they have some experience handling this. But I just want to know, we've seen a lot. It seems like we're still seeing the same thing happen over and over and over again. So I just curious about what they're doing about it. But those are the three questions I want to throw out there at you, and I'm going to attempt to answer them myself. And again, like I said, you can comment below and let me know what you think. As far as him fitting in with Cleveland, let's think about it for a second. Cleveland Browns last year, they won 7 games. 7 games. Okay, they got a new quarterback. They got a new coach now. They got a new running back. Prior to, I'm not talking about Kareem, the one they, signing him, but they got a new running back last year in Nick Chubb, who I think was just 4 yards shy of 1,000 for the season, if I'm not mistaken. But the Cleveland Browns, they are, as people would say, they're not your father's Cleveland Browns anymore. Okay, they're not that doormat that they used to be. Prior to last year, I think they only won one game in 31. They were 1-31, if I'm not mistaken. It was one game. They only won one game in a 2-year stretch. Let me just go ahead and say that. Okay, and I think it was out of 31 games. Okay. Last year, they won 7 games. Okay. And I think they tied that one tie that they had was with Pittsburgh. Okay. And I think that right there showed people early that Cleveland was serious this year. They were serious about winning. Okay. They made the switch at quarterback from Tyrod Taylor to Baker Mayfield, which was a better fit. It seems like they have an identity now. The defense is playing pretty well. The guys on offense are playing with confidence. They're playing like they expect to win. It's not the Cleveland Browns that we're used to seeing. And me for one, I'm happy. I'm happy to see Cleveland is competing again. There are a few teams in the league that have become synonymous with the NFL. And you just, in my opinion, it's hard to see football without these teams. When you think about teams like that, you think about Pittsburgh, Cowboys, the Raiders. Who else? I said the Raiders, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Cleveland. Somebody else I'm missing. But when you think about the football, you instantly think about teams like that. That's why I was so happy when they, remember earlier when Cleveland, the team that was Cleveland at that time moved, to another city, and the football had vacated Cleveland for quite some time, but then they decided to bring them back, which was a great decision because that team, that city, is one of the better sports towns that we have, especially when it comes to football. You think about how bad Cleveland has been, for like a decade or so. But you know what? Those fans sat out there in that type of weather, and we're talking about Cleveland, so it's plenty of snow and cold weather, for most of the season. But those fans were faithful, in getting out there and supporting their team, even though they were bad. So it was good to see football return to Cleveland. I was definitely excited, about that. So to see them actually fight this year and almost get in the playoffs, I mean, that was cool. I mean, if you're a fan of football, you got to be happy for those guys. You know what I'm saying? You almost want to pull for them, unless, you're a direct rival of theirs, like Pittsburgh or, Baltimore or somebody like that. But, yeah, I mean, Cleveland winning 6 games this year. I mean, they're proving that they're ready to win. So where am I going with this? The question was, does Kareem Hunt fit? Okay. Well, when you think about the fact that they already have Nick Chubb, who came out of Georgia, and like I said, he was just shy of 1,000 yards. They seem to already have an identity, But I think this is what they were thinking. Okay. We're Cleveland. Okay. We're trying to get back into football, competing football, to let people know that we're no longer the doormat. Now, we won 7 games this year, but we still have a long road ahead of us. We want to compete every year. We don't want this to be a one-time and then we disappear for another 10 years. So you know what? They jumped out there and they said, hey, we have a running back, but we'll take Kareem Hunt too. Okay, because we're serious about winning. This is one of those situations where I don't know if you've ever heard this, like during a draft or whatever. Teams have, two thought processes. Either they're going to pick somebody from a skill position or they're going to go best player available. Okay, which means, if they do that, it doesn't matter if they already have somebody at, this position. If another player from the collegiate level becomes available, at that same position, we're going to take him, and we're going to fit him in our arsenal. And I think that's what Cleveland is doing right now because they're trying to rebuild their name. They're trying to build their brand, as a real football team. So even though they have a stud at running back, they say, let's bring in another guy. You know what I'm saying? So with a new coach, on deck and a new way of thinking, whatever their scheme is, you can make room and a place on your roster for Kareem Hunt, okay? And that is just going to make things even more difficult for the people in your division and your opponents that have to stop you. You understand? So, and when you think about it, there's nothing wrong with having, 2 running backs. I mean, we've seen that system work a lot. Think back to, who was it? The Giants, who had Thunder and Lightning, I believe it was, right? And Carolina Panthers, when they had D'Angelo Hall, and I can't remember what the other guy's name was, but they had their own version of the Thunder and Lightning, type deal. And normally, when you have that dual running back threat, it's because one complements the other. Their styles are different. So, you hit them with this one and then you change it up and hit them with the other style, and it makes it a little bit difficult for, the defense to stop. But these 2 players here, they seem to be built the same, although I think Kareem Hunt will bring a different style, a different style of running to Cleveland, So, but either way, I think it's a positive. Them picking up a guy like Kareem Hunt, nobody else wanted to touch him, obviously, because of what happened. It's good for Cleveland. And I say it's good for Cleveland because Cleveland is trying to rebuild themselves, rebuild their brand. They're trying to get into those winning ways, of competing, They want to be a part of that championship run just like every other team. You know what I'm saying? So kudos for Cleveland going down and taking a chance on Kareem Hunt. And it's a good thing. It's not like Kareem Hunt has been out the league that long. He only missed the last 5 games of the season last year. And so he's still in football shape, I'm pretty sure. So for Cleveland, it's a good, I think it's a good thing. It'll fit. I think he'll be a good fit for their offense. And like I said, they got a brand new coach. So now is the time for them to build their offense around having a 2-back set, And I think they're guaranteed to win some. I think they'll get into the playoffs this year. They took a large leap last year, winning 7 games. And when you add Kareem, I think even if they didn't add Kareem, they were only going to get better, in my opinion. But now that they have Kareem, they're going to get into the playoffs, and who knows, they could end up in the AFC Championship game. Just saying, it's a possibility. Okay. What's my second question? The second question I want to throw out there. Oh, is he worth the PR hit? Okay. So let's talk. I didn't mention why this is such a big deal, but even though I know a lot of you guys probably already understand, who follow football. But for those of you who don't, Kareem Hunt, he was not only accused, but there's video out there. He was one of those. He was involved in a domestic violence situation. Okay, he was in the videos out there. I've seen it. A lot of people have seen it. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it by now. He pushed and kicked a woman during a argument or whatever was going on. I'm not even sure what was happening in the video. I saw the video, but yeah, it's just, bottom line, it wasn't a good look. Pushing and kicking a woman, and the woman was already down. I think she was still trying to recover from where she fell before. And from what I saw, Kareem pushed another guy, and that guy fell into that woman, and they both went into the wall. And, before, by the time the woman she never even made it back to her feet. I think she was squatting. She was on the ground, and she got to her feet, but she wasn't standing up. She was actually squatting, holding her head. And they were still trying to hold Kareem, from getting to her. And he reached around with his foot and kicked her while she was still down. So it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look. So the question is, is this, adding this guy to your roster, is it worth the PR hit that you're going to take? And only Cleveland can answer that. And I can try to answer it from their standpoint. And it would probably go something like this. We're Cleveland. We're one of those organizations that we're probably the only organization that has had a bad luck or the disappointing season, as many disappointing seasons as we've had. And we are in the process of trying to, like I said before, rebuild ourselves, to be a contender, and not just a doormat. So with them going 1-31 just, 2 years ago, over 2 years season, they're probably willing to do anything to give their club a boost, okay, to get back into, the winning ways, to give their fans something to cheer for. As far as the PR thing goes, I think we all can understand, everything, all bad news, news in general, only lasts so long. When something bad happens, people will latch on to it and, beat it and run it into the ground, But at some point, it will fade. And what I can almost guarantee is that, in this world, something else is always lurking right around the corner. Okay? So they may be, fielding a lot of questions about Kareem Hunt and, his off the field problems and things like that. But at some point, somebody else is going to do something from somewhere else, and it's going to take that attention away from you and your organization. Okay? Now, what's going to happen is you're going to have the pro women rights group, that speak out against women being abused and misused and, verbally abused as well as physically and things like that. They're probably going to protest around the headquarters or the stadium or outside of the practice facility come OTAs, things like that. So you're going to have to deal with those things, and that's mostly questions that will have to be answered by the GM, or the owner of the team. As far as the coach himself, like I said, Freddie Kitchens, he's just been hired as the new coach there. In my opinion, he may be asked, about it, but you know what? In my opinion, I think between the coach or the coaching staff and the players that they're probably going to target, with these questions, as the media will do, you can just say, hey, we welcome anybody that's being brought on board to our team, and we're going to love them and treat them like one of the family, and leave it at that. Or you could just flat out say no comment, talk to our GM, talk to the owner of our team, but I'm just here to field questions about football itself, not about things going on off the field. You can leave it at that, but I'm pretty sure the GM and the owner will get bombarded with a lot of questions regarding this. So it's really up to them now that they've made this move to decide whether or not, which I think they've already done at this point if they decide to bring him aboard, that Kareem Hunt will be worth the PR hit that they're going to take. So, but only time will tell. We'll see how they handle that, So, my third question, what's my third question? Oh, the third question was, so what is the NFL doing about situations like this? Okay. Now, they've had a number of players to fall victim to this whole domestic violence situation before. You had Greg Hardy, who played with the Carolina Panthers. And then once he took that hit, he disappeared for a minute and got picked up by the Cowboys. And then they decided that he was just a bit too uncontrollable, because Greg, if you ever seen him play and saw him on the sidelines, he was real fiery, and, he was just a hard person to keep in check. He could possibly do things to hurt your team. He was a great player, don't get me wrong, but he was doing some things that would also get you flagged and, really hurt your team. So eventually Dallas ended up letting him go. And he ended up in the world of MMA, and from what I understand, he's doing pretty well in the UFC. So, kudos to him. Hopefully he was able to seek some help, for those anger issues. But again, like I said, he's in the UFC, so he may be using that as his outlet. But whatever the case, I hope he doesn't find himself in any more trouble like that, But there are, many other cases, just like this. Like Kareem Hunt's old teammate, Tyreek Hill, he had a run-in with a female situation. I'm not sure what the details were about that, but I did hear that he suffered from the same thing. Who else? Ray Rice, who was, I guess, the poster child for this, whom they made a very stern example out of. Okay? Unlike the rest of these players, unlike, Greg Hardy, Tyreek Hill, Reuben Foster, who played with San Francisco, got caught up in the situation. Now he at towards the end of last year, he got signed by the Redskins. But all these players that I just mentioned, they all received second chances. Okay, everybody except for Ray Rice. Okay, unfortunately, the NFL decided to make an example out of him. But here's the thing. In doing so, normally that's to discourage, anybody else from going down that road. But has it worked? It doesn't seem like it has, because every year, somebody else is getting in trouble for the same thing. And I just spouted off a bunch of guys to you, Like I said, Reuben Foster. Now it's Kareem Hunt. Greg. Jesus, I just mentioned the guy who played with Carolina and Greg Hardy. All these guys since Ray Rice have gone through the exact same thing, but were reinstated at some point. So my question is with that is, if these guys were allowed to have a second chance, why not give Ray Rice a second chance? And now, just so you know, I'm not a I'm not an advocate. Guys abusing women. There shouldn't be a place for that. There really shouldn't. And I believe in punishing folks for that. Okay, because we have to stop this some kind of way. We have to do our part. And I say our, but the NFL, since they're employing these folks, they need to do their part, in trying to make sure that these things does not happen, anymore, if they can help it, So, and I'm pretty sure they have these programs set up, for these guys to go through to become better people and learn how to manage their anger and stuff like that. But the question is it working? Because like I said, we every year we're seeing the same thing happen over and over and over again with different players, So I know we have all these programs set up. I keep saying we, but like I'm part of the NFL. I know the NFL has programs set up to help their players, through certain situations, whether it be alcoholism or domestic violence or drug abuse and things like that, because they do care. I do believe they do care. But maybe we should have a program set up to prevent these things. And I know, instead of relying on punishment of one player to deter another player from going down that road, maybe there needs to be a program set up for all the rookies when they first come into the league, a program that they all need to go through, just like the program that they have set up for them to learn how to deal with the media. Maybe there should be a program that is mandatory for all rookies to go through when it comes to dealing with situations outside of football. And maybe we can prevent these things from happening and having these conversations, because I get tired of seeing it. And I know fans of the game get tired of seeing it, and especially people who don't care for the game, but care for how our women are being treated. I know everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody is tired of hearing these stories and seeing these things play out, So perhaps, if they can come up with some kind of way, perhaps if they can come up with some kind of way to prevent this, put some type of program in place that is mandatory for all the players coming into the league to go through and, give them information and advice on how to handle situations, to keep them from escalating to violence, then maybe we won't see these things happen as often as we do. Okay? So I'm going to leave it right there. All right? And you can throw some comments, below, and just let me know what you think about the whole situation, whether or not you believe Kareem Hunt should be reinstated, or maybe you believe in second chances for everybody, And you know what the sad thing is? Well, the whole thing is sad. But on a side note, all these players, except for Ray Rice, obviously, but all these other players have gotten second and some cases third chances, to further their NFL career. Okay, after committing, criminal acts, because that's what these things are. They broke the law, when they abused these women, right? But Colin Kaepernick, who isn't guilty of doing anything like this, anything against the law, the only thing he's guilty of is speaking out about the abuse that people of color are dealing with when it comes to the people who are here to protect and serve, this guy, he's being shunned by not the NFL. He's allowed into the NFL, but it's the teams, the individual teams who are passing him over. Okay, this guy, he's simply using. If he's guilty of anything, he's guilty of using and exercising his freedom of speech. That's it. He's simply saying that the anthem that football players have to salute to, and the words of it does not match up with the way that we are living right now. And so instead of me saluting this flag and the anthem, I'm going to take a knee until things change. I'm just not going to salute. And I understand where he's coming from. He's just bringing attention to something that isn't changing. He's bringing attention to something that needs to change. Okay? And he's being punished, not by the NFL, but by the individual teams. Because right now, out of all 32 teams, I guarantee you half of those teams don't have backups that are half as good as Kaepernick. Okay? And then maybe 13 out of those 16, the starters aren't as good as Kaepernick. And yet this guy doesn't have a job. But you know what? That's a story for a different day. So anyway, back to the Kareem Hunt. I'm leaving it right here. You let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you think it's fair that he's being reinstated, or you think he should be banned from football, from the NFL altogether. All right? Till next time. Thanks for watching.